Welcome, welcome. It is Thursday, July the 23rd. This is Hurricane Hub Live. I'm Chief Meteorologist Tim Pandages. Let's get right to it. We've got some activity out there in both basins. Still tracking Bertha. Made its second landfall today along the Louisiana and Texas state line. Now it's moving inland over Texas, still bringing some minor impacts, and we still have tropical storm warnings up. And then out in the eastern Pacific, we've got Fausto. That's a stronger hurricane now, still a Cat 1, but it is intensifying. And we're awaiting the development of Genevieve, which is now likely to develop within the next 48 hours, and even higher odds at 7 days out. So tropical depression Bertha now just got a new update here as of the 8 o'clock advisory from the National Hurricane Center. Not unexpected here. It's been over land now for quite a while, and it has weakened in terms of its wind field, 35-mile-per-hour wind, so it is now below that 39-mile-per-hour threshold to give us a tropical storm. Moving west at a pretty good clip at 13 miles an hour, moved right over Galveston Bay, and really the center, the low-level center here, is sitting right over the city of Houston right now with all the convection and unsettled weather pretty much displaced well to the south there, and that's what's giving some rain showers and some gusty winds and onshore flow out by Corpus Christi and down to Brownsville. So 35-mile-per-hour winds, gusts up to 50 if you're lucky in some of the stronger storms. Still a heavily sheared storm. We've got strong winds out of the northeast aloft, and that's still exposing the low-level center that you can see there spinning over the Louisiana state line, heading towards Beaumont and over towards Houston, Galveston Bay, and all the convection and really unsettled weather is located southwest of that low-level center at this time. You can see there is a little bit of some rain showers, some convective downpours here, tropical downpours getting brought in on a fetch off of the Gulf. That very humid tropical air moving up and over places like Houston. In fact, they got a flood advisory right over Houston, which Houston floods quite easily. You get a sustained downpour for half an hour or so, and you'll see some flooding there. So here's the track on Bertha. In fact, it goes all the way out here. Doesn't really go much farther. It's just going to rain itself out, fall apart here over the next 24 hours or so as it becomes a remnant low and sits pretty much right over New Braunfels and just well north of Corpus Christi there with winds even less than that. So a futurecast here shows whatever rain is left here building inland, the heaviest of it heading down into South Texas and northern Mexico, and then again by the end of the day tomorrow into Saturday and Sunday, there's just nothing left of this storm. It runs into the higher terrain in North Mexico and completely falls apart. So Atlantic storm names so far, we've got Arthur and we've got Bertha, both maintain tropical storms, no hurricanes yet in the basin. Next up would be Cristobal. Now, when can we look regarding climatology? When would we find our third named storm? Well, typically it's on or around the first week of August. August the 3rd is the average date over the last 30 years for our third named storm in the Atlantic. We had Bertha develop on the 20th, so we were somewhere around that, and on June 17th we had Arthur develop. So within a couple days of each of those dates for climatological dates. And is it coming anytime soon? Probably not likely. This takes us through that August 3rd date. In the Atlantic, just nothing developing from the Climate Prediction Center. Out in the eastern Pacific, maybe some low-end development here, and we may get a lull in activity after Fausto and Genevieve build on through there, and then even jumping out into almost the middle of August, 3 weeks out. Nothing in the Atlantic basin, still remaining very dormant, quiet. Eastern Pacific still showing low-end chances of any development happening there. Big reason, very stable atmosphere right now. A lot of Saharan dust still coming out in plumes off of the continent of Africa, building off to the west with the upper level winds. I will say the concentrations are looking a little bit less, but look at this plume getting ready to come off the coast by the 1st of August and then sitting pretty much right on top of the main development region in the Atlantic, probably putting a kibosh on any sort of development there anytime soon. So that's the latest out in the Atlantic basin. Coming up after a quick break, we're going to talk hurricane home prep and focus on an area of your home that you may overlook when you're prepping your home for hurricane season. We'll do all that after a quick break. All right, welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. We've got a very special guest with us here in studio today, David Yifrach from Seaside Garage Door Experts. And David, welcome to the show. Pleasure to have you in studio today.
Meet you.
Now, we're talking about a theme of hurricane home prep.
Yes.
And you specialize in garage doors, and this is news to me as well. Like, that's the one thing that a lot of folks kind of overlook when they're prepping their home. And talk about how like 80% of homeowners kind of will just overlook that whole thing, and that could be a big mistake if a storm comes.
Look, I don't know how they overlook the biggest object on their house, you know, so...
You think it's windowless, so it's not a big deal, right?
Yeah. People are afraid, you know, when there's a storm, you shut off all the doors, the windows, the garage doors. They think it's, you know, it's just going to stay there, you know. But you need to prepare for it to stay there, not because when hurricane comes, you know, the suction could be like from the tail of the wind, can just pull the door out, or if you have a big, you know, tornado or pressure, it can just cave the door in. And from there, it's very easy for the wind, you know, to start breaking the roof and taking everything off, you know.
Right, because, yeah,
ripping your house from the inside.
Yeah, when we're preparing a home, you'll often see folks boarding up doors and windows to protect those.
Yeah.
But not much going into a garage door being secured.
Mostly it's lack of knowledge, because people are not aware. They think, you know, the house was built by code and everything, so they think it's good enough, and many people just not aware that there is a certain wind load that the door should have, you know, depends on the area where you live. So it's something to look, you know, you need to research it and make sure your house is good enough for the next, next storm.
Right, and you know, we have the outlook for this season with the strong El Nino developing, which typically means a quieter Atlantic hurricane season. And a lot of folks will look at that and hear that and say, I don't need to really do a hurricane prep this year for my home. It's going to be quiet. We're not going to get any storms. What we always say is, all it takes is one storm.
Yeah.
Now, why would a quieter season, do you think you see more and more people just kind of neglecting to take care of?
First of all, a lot of misguidance from us, not me personally, but garage door companies. They want to sell the cheapest door and get the job done and go. So they misinform the customers, and when you misinform the customers, they don't look for it, you know.
Yeah.
But especially when they run into customers before they want to leave the house, they want to sell the house, and they need to pass through inspection. So the first thing we check is the door with wind loaded, you know, so it's going to pass the inspection so you can sell it, you know.
Right.
And then people wake up for it, you know.
Yeah, like, I don't know much about garage doors.
Yeah.
What's the difference between a standard garage door and one that has a wind rating on it?
Well, first of all, just think of it logically. What would make, how much wind would take to blow up your wall? How much wind would take to blow up your garage door? So your garage door is mounted to the framing. Is your framing sturdy enough? Is the jam brackets that's mounting, you have enough jam brackets to hold the tracks of the door? Do you have enough struts on each panel to hold the door when a tornado or hurricane come, to hold the door from caving in. So things like that you need to look at. And of course, you need to check. There's a website you can go to, and you can check your wind load rate by the area you live, you know, so you can check that and go follow through.
Right, so as a homeowner, there's a quick way that we can check it all ourselves, a 60-second garage door check, you call it.
Yeah.
What exactly goes into that?
Well, first of all, if the door is wind rated, there should be a sticker on the door. If it's really, you have a certificate that the door is really wind rated. So on this sticker, you're going to have a chart with the PSF rating, and it's going to have a check mark of your specific or your door specific wind rating. You know. So this is one thing to look at. If you don't see this sticker, then the door is either what we call street load, okay, or it's not wind rated at all. Now, you can look at your struts. We call it struts, braces that goes across each section. And if you have just one on the top, the door is not wind rated.
Oh, okay.
It can cave in, from the other sections. The weakest link is what's going to break your door, So look for the weakest link on your
Where on a garage door is the fail point?
A fail point, it could be for the door to cave in. It can cave in right in the middle because the pressure of the wind usually just like hammers your house, your whole, your whole wall and the garage door in it. So it usually caves in the middle. Or if it's a suction, the tail of the wind can just suck it all, the whole door out, So this is like these struts that I'm talking about. They sit in each section. You have like 4 sections on standard door, and they enforce the section from caving in or being sucked out.
So these wind-rated doors, they're rated to sustain winds.
Yes.
They're not rated to sustain sort of debris impacts or anything like that, correct?
Yes, it does. Actually, some of these doors depends on the manufacturer and model of the door. Some of these doors were tested with shooting what do you call this? 2x4.
Oh yeah, a little projectile, a little missile.
From like a missile from a cannon,
Oh, cool.
And they are even better for impact. Your door will get damaged when you hit it with your car.
Yeah.
It depends if the damage will be just dent or the whole door going to collapse,
Yeah. So now, if you do upgrade your door to a wind-rated one, there's probably typically a good homeowner's insurance discount, I'd imagine. Do you know anything about that?
I think you can get points at the insurance. Your house value probably going to raise if your door is rated right. On the other hand, if it's not, you can be penalized on the inspection, So.
Right. So getting to my last question for you, I know we talked about this before the show, there's a lot of scammers out there that'll sell you a garage door that they say is wind rated and do all these things that hold up during a storm.
Yeah, it's easy to...
You're saying there's a lot of people that are trying to take you to the cleaners on this.
Yeah. First of all, a lot of big companies here, they say we have our own brand. And their own brand is nice doors, nice looking doors, but they are not wind rated, And when they put their own brand, you're going to see that there's no sticker there. They might put braces on each panel, which is good. It's something better than nothing, but it's not official wind rated, So
what will that sticker say? And you said also earlier that you get a certificate, a physical certificate.
Yeah, actually,
when
you replace a door, you need to actually go and get a permit to do that, right? So when you get the permit, they will tell you your wind load, your wind rated for your area. So you need to just follow through and order the same door that they tell you, on the permit. So there is also a certificate that you get from the manufacturer. When I order a wind rated door, I get this certificate, pass it to the owner. And I don't know if everybody keep their paperwork, intact, but at least you have the sticker for, that it's visual, that you can see, it's on the door.
All right, great information, David. Thank you so much for coming on the show tonight.
Right.
Things to know about the garage doors, just in case a storm comes, so make sure you don't overlook that.
Yeah,
I
just want to mention, there is a free website. It's called atcouncil.org, and you can check your area and what's the wind rate in that area. Then you go to dasma.com, I think, and then from there you can get your wind code by the address that you live in. So it's very easy.
Great information. Thank you so much.
All right. Thank you.
We'll see you soon. Thanks so much. We'll be right back after a quick break.
Thank you.
right, welcome back to Hurricane Hub Live. Let's get a check on the Eastern Pacific. Pretty active out there. We've got Fausto, Category 1 hurricane, strengthening. And right on its heels, this one looks like it's ready to get cooking, becoming a tropical storm probably pretty soon. Be named Genevieve right behind Fausto and well off in the Central Pacific, well southwest of Hawaii. We've got another one that's going to be in the Central Pacific Basin. High chances of that one developing. Odds here on this one have gone up again today in the short term. We're now up to high odds, 70% chance, and it has also been tagged as Invest 98E. That is the next step, really, in development odds here. Invest stands for investigative. 98 is just a number, rotates 90 to 99. And the E on the end there just tells us that it's in the Eastern Pacific Basin. 90% odds, nearly sure that it's going to develop here over the next 7 days. And again, the next name is Genevieve. Now, that would complete the first list here. Fausto was our first hurricane, Genevieve up next, and Herman or Azelle. And it looks like we'll take a little break after we get Genevieve here. There's no other areas of interest to really watch. Look at Fausto here. Well-developed eye already, and it's still just a Category 1, which is interesting. I wouldn't doubt if this is a little bit more intense than what's being read here from the Hurricane Center. 85-mile-per-hour winds, slightly stronger than yesterday when we talked. It was 80, but still a Category 1 on the Saffir-Simpson scale. We got to get above 95, and tell you what, from that defined eye, it looks pretty strong out there, and even better here on visible satellite imagery. Moving off to the west, due west at 14 miles per hour, with gusts up to 105. So here's the thing with storms that are way out here in the middle of the Pacific. We're not running recon missions into this, so we've got no planes flying through to get these real-time readings. These are satellite data. And basically what that's doing is it's kind of inferring what the wind speeds might be based on the convection being picked up by the infrared satellite imagery there, and also what's going on the sea surface, the ripples in the waves, how big the waves are, that type of thing is a correlation to how strong the winds are. So roughly estimated at 85 miles per hour, but I wouldn't doubt if it's a little bit stronger than that. Little bit of dry air, in fact, a lot of dry air, almost completely surrounding this system, but with that well-defined eye there and overall its structure being quite sound, it is effectively walling itself off from sucking in any of that dry air into the circulation. You can see it trying to get in there. You can see that nose getting down to the south there and trying to get pulled into the circulation. It may happen, but for now at least, it's maintained and even intensified a little bit with all of this dry air and the reds and rust color yellows. That's dry air in the mid-levels. And if it was to get pulled into the circulation, it would kind of choke it off a little bit and weaken it. But here's the track. Check that out. That's a new development. Takes it pretty much due west towards Hawaii, still as a tropical storm by Tuesday night. We could be talking about impacts here from Fausto as a tropical storm to the Hawaiian Islands, which isn't unheard of, but it doesn't happen every season. So this would be the first time this season, and thankfully it's not going to be a strong hurricane. It's going to be a weakening tropical storm, and that's a big difference from a weakening tropical storm being impacted by that rather than an intensifying tropical storm. Hugely different impacts are felt by that. All right, named storms in the Atlantic so far on our scorecard. No big changes here. Once we get Genevieve, we'll tick that up on the Eastern Pacific up to 7. And hurricanes stand at 1 with Fausto still cooking along there as a Category 1 with 85-mile-per-hour winds. That's the latest out there in the East Pac. We'll be back after a quick break, and tropical trivia is coming up in just a short while. Welcome back as our weather team continues to keep a close eye on the tropics. We're breaking down some of the details behind how hurricane winds are measured. Meteorologist Hunter Forrest explains.
To get the maximum sustained winds, the National Hurricane Center measures wind 10 meters or 33 feet off the ground, and it's averaged over 1 minute. Different sensors and techniques are used depending on where the measurement is being taken. For instance, tropical storms and hurricanes that are far out to sea are primarily monitored by satellites. Sensors on the satellites and analysis of images can produce some pretty accurate estimates of the wind speed and central pressure of the storms. As it moves closer and becomes a threat to land, vital and more precise data is gathered by the hurricane hunters. The planes release instruments called dropsondes to measure the winds as they fall to the ocean. The hurricane hunters are also equipped with stepped frequency microwave radio meters that measure surface winds by looking for radiation off the ocean surface. When the storm gets close to land, ground-based next-rad Doppler radars give us close-up and complete view of the wind field. Here's something to consider. The maximum sustained winds are the strongest winds found anywhere in the storm, and the winds are usually a little stronger out over the water, where they're free from things like trees and buildings, which can slow it down. Just because reporting stations or buoys aren't showing the highest winds doesn't mean they aren't happening.
All right, time for tropical trivia. Yesterday's question was, Hurricane Michael made landfall as a Category 5 in 2019. In what state? Texas, Florida, Louisiana, North Carolina. That, of course, was in the panhandle of Florida. Tonight's question is, a hurricane is considered major starting at what category? Category 1, 2, 3, or 4? I'll have the answer for you tomorrow night on Hurricane Hub Live. Remember, we are here Monday through Friday, every weeknight at 8 p.m. And before you go, don't forget to scan the QR code to download the 13 News Now Hurricane Guide. It is information on supplies you should have on hand, emergency numbers you might need, and a whole lot more. We'll see you tomorrow, Friday at 8 p.m.